Yeah, you do open already. You did like mommy. You did like
You want dance? They feel remove this thing. Eh?
okay, double tap on the home. Double tap on home. You do okay like that now. So send the link to Broken. Send the link to Broken. Send them to alumni. If you send that to Broken, tell them to me post them to the page. Web.WhatsApp.
You want go like shit.
5 minutes now. Send the link there.
Hmm?
The link.
They come now, they come.
Knock off how many.
It's na empty na video.
Web.WhatsApp never open.
For instance.
Just plan that money.
That's more the coffee.
After the system, I can do that.
Amen. See?
But just open that WhatsApp first, make I communicate that broken. Then I told you, just tell them to say 5 minutes more for the Telegram and this thing. That the link is dropping now. That they should get ready with their earpiece and everything.
She enter the title of that decision.
Eh? Yes.
It's my phone.
Okay, you won't just get that from you. Don't
No
worry.
worries, no worries.
Tell them 5 minutes.
People they need
Like,
share your Wi-Fi. You
don't get it.
What do you want? Thank you.
Research. You can't get me, you get me. Maybe I'm the
Hello, Funny Flame Flowers. I'm Director of Apologetics.
don't check down with the Don't copy now. Send that. Just send that. Then maybe you reduce the load on the network. Push them to send that to blockchain.
Is that my own?
Fine, just check that. The guy don't even say it. No, that place we chat they just scroll down. Or just search yourself now. And my brother find
No, the same, but your phone, your system, they hang like this.
now plenty things inside the system.
And this screen sharing,
Follow the caution.
do this system. And the link I still paste. Can I put
Like 600 minutes.
since one I sent since
Yes.
not send that to
So I will buy 8 people. 8 people like
No, this is for no day like this, I just say they say that system now. It's not stop screen share.
that one will cost you again.
I'm gonna put it in screen.
Just send that from just send that don't come. You tell me so make I share now, me go share.
Hmm?
Tell am say make you share am for the telegram that me I cannot access my phone now.
Sure. Your copy. Yes. Okay. That's right.
Send to that Kenneth Sedu Global Alumni.
No, you share you don't you know what you do.
Yes.
Okay, my share to global alumni.
Yes.
Don't worry. Shaking too is a listen.
Yeah, sure. No this. Play the music. Play the music. Go.
I read that music first. So, person not the watch. Okay. So we are going to go. Start time.
Okay, good evening, everyone. So, I'm so sorry. I would like to apologize for the little the delay. We were supposed to start by by 8:30, but we had some kind of technical issues, and we were trying to sort that out. So let's just see how many people do we have. Let's see how many people do we have online now. Okay, how many people do we have online? Okay, so I just want to welcome each and every one of us to this free webinar on double your research output, double your research output, and it's one that we have a lot of value coming your way this evening. We have quite a number of things that we will be sharing with you this evening, so I would like you to just get your pen, get your jotter, and definitely there will be something you will have to write down. Do you understand? So let's just give some kind of a few more minutes, 5 minutes, why 5 minutes while we allow other people to join so that we can be able to carry other people along. So that we can be able to carry other people along. So okay. Yeah. Okay, so that we can be able to carry some other people along. Let's just give like 5 minutes. Let's give more 5 minutes. Yeah. Don't mind me. Do. Okay. So 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes, Grace, so that other people can join, so that other people can join, other people can join. That other people can join. Open up. Just hold your left click and go to that DLC.
Networking being called.
Eh?
Networking.
Okay. No, 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 no,
See everything.
that's not- Okay. Now check how many people do we have. Okay, also good. All right, now we are going to kick off without wasting much time because we have spent some time already. So we are going to be talking about double your research output, right? And I know a lot of questions are coming up to our mind. So what do you mean by double your research output, right? So now, and this one now, it's one that we live in the 21st century, and then the 21st century is a knowledge-based economy. The 21st century is a knowledge-based economy, and it is one that a core way in which a person can be able to distinguish herself. It all depends on the kind of knowledge output that you're bringing, because it is an information age. It is information but intensive, and that calls for the fact that one needs to always maintain that disposition that makes for what constant learning, that makes for a constant learning. If you could just give me the next slide. If you just give me the next slide. Now it says something here that what makes you educated is not just in the multitude of the degrees you have or the multitude of certificates that you have, but your willingness to maintain a disposition that makes constant learning. Your willingness, what makes you educated is not in the multitude of degrees you possess, but in your resolve to sustain a kind of humility that makes constant learning possible. So it is one that you need to continue to learn, unlearn, and relearn as you progress. And that is exactly what this webinar is all about, because at Kenix Edu, one thing we try to do is to help you to update what knowledge. And before I progress further, my name is Mira Kununaji, and I am the managing director of Kenix Edu. Kenix Edu, which is a fast-growing data analytics training and consulting firm here in Nigeria that is set to help build and grow analytics talent for the next industrial revolution. And that is why with everything we do, we try to see how to attain that particular goal, to help you people to update your knowledge, to help you people to update knowledge concerning analytics, concerning research. And that is exactly why we have this webinar today. So now moving ahead, now like I said earlier, that in this 21st century now, the way people distinguish themselves depend on the kind of knowledge outputs they are bringing up, right? Because we are talking about what an information age, and then research is at the core of ensuring that new knowledge is being discovered, new knowledge is being shared, new knowledge that helps the society to go forward, new knowledge that helps to break new frontiers, new horizons. So research is very, very much what's important. So regardless of the field that you find yourself, whether you're in medical, whether any particular field at all you find yourself, the research is very, very key in getting ahead. And it is one that most people think about research just okay in situations whereby I'm pursuing an undergraduate degree, so you get to write a project and that is it, or that is it about the person's research life. Or I'm pursuing a master's and you get to do research and that is it about the person's research life. And, or you are doing a PhD and that is it about the person's research life. But you see, research is something that is ongoing. Like I said, you have to use it to distinguish yourself. You have to use it to distinguish yourself, because there are so many people out there within your particular discipline. What stands you out depends on the quality of knowledge that you are bringing up on board. But you see, the way people have been bringing out this research work, it has been very, very low over time. Why? Because a lot of factors contribute to that. So for some people, they feel like, okay, research is something that is very, very hard, or they don't even know how to go about the whole research process and the rest of them. And that has really reduced the output they are bringing up research wise. So just take me to the next slide. Okay, so now that have been able to reduce the output that they are bringing out research wise. So, but then this 21st century, like I keep on saying, it's that what distinguishes you is depending on how consistent you are. How consistent you are in bringing up this knowledge, how consistent you are in developing new knowledge that helps the society to go forward. And that is why you have to be productive. You have to be productive research wise. You have to be productive research wise. So now when we talk about research, picking up from there now, just to set a foundation for what we are going to be talking about. So when we talk about research, now research is that process that tries to investigate a particular phenomenon in order to be able to learn new knowledge about that particular thing, that solves a problem or answer a particular question that that particular researcher has. So sometimes it is found in societal issues which a particular researcher is trying to inquire into to discover knowledge about that particular issue. So these are the different things when we talk about research. But then now when we now look at productivity now has to do with, or output now has to do with an input kind of relationship. So something gets in and then we get something out in the end of the day. So research wise now, research output now looks at all those things like, okay, scholarly articles that you're writing, research papers that you're writing, conference proceedings that you're writing. So these are the different outputs research wise, right? And then again, beyond the conventional, like say, academic way of looking at the research output, but then most of us, we have some kind of social media handles like LinkedIn, we have some social media handles like Medium, right? But we are not optimizing these things for the 21st century to communicate knowledge. You communicate knowledge that when people go up and search online, when you come up, what do they see about you? Do you understand? What do they see about you? So research has a way of helping you increase your visibility. And with the increase in visibility, you get to attract attention. And this thing sets you ahead, right? So now, having said that particular background of what the whole research productivity is all about, now going forward now, what are those things? what before we talk about how you can be able to improve your research output, now let's just look at what are those different causes, what are those different reasons that makes people's research output to be very, very low, right? Because it's a problem. There is this particular saying that says that if you don't know where the brain started beating you, you certainly will not know where the brain is going to stop beating you. So now let us just quickly look at, next slide please. Let's just quickly look at some of those reasons, some of those causes why the research output has been very, very low, right? And because I like to organize knowledge, so one thing I did is to group them into three different categories. So the first one, which is the psychological factors, the second one, which is the resource constraints, and the third one is the technical challenges. It's certainly not exhaustive, right? It's certainly not exhaustive. So it is one that you too can be able to look at it and know what is missing, and then probably in the comments you can just type in comments and let's see some of those challenges, some of those reasons that you feel are the primary reasons why the research output have been very low. So starting with the first one now, which is psychological, right? Which is psychological, and it is something that it has to do with the mind. So there is this particular ideology about research that okay, at the end of the day, what is going to come out of it? Okay, the BSc project that I did, is it not just dumped somewhere in the registries department or anywhere? So there is this kind of ideology that okay, at the end of the day, even if I pass through this particular process, nothing reasonable is going to come out of it. Basically, because we cannot see, let me say, a direct financial reward that is going to come out of engaging in research, right? So maybe we just publish this particular thing and be like, that is it, that is all about the goal, that is all about the whole process. But no, so that particular section about okay, even if I undertake this research process at the end to come out of it is one of the reasons why so many people have this inertia about undertaking research. So it is a problem, especially around here in Nigeria, whereby there is no kind of relationship between the research output we are bringing from the academia or even individual researcher and its direct impact on, let me say, in society, in business, and the rest of them. But this is exactly what research is all about. It helps society go forward. So because of the fact that most people cannot be able to see that direct impact the research is having, it has a way of making them not to see the need to participate, not to see the need to be able to undertake this research process. And it is a problem. It has reduced the number of research outputs that we are bringing out. So it has reduced the number of research output that we're bringing out. So then the second aspect, the second psychological factor that I think is one of the reasons why the research output has been low, also it's with regards to not paying attention enough, right? Not paying attention enough. Now, research is a careful process which you are trying to discover problems and then look into these problems, inquire into that particular problem. But most people are not paying attention enough. Why? Because we live in a century whereby there are so many distractions everywhere. There are so many distractions everywhere. We are distracted with this issue, we are distracted with that issue. And because of that, now we are not paying attention to those critical factors that needs to be looked into, and you need to be attentive. You need to be attentive because when you are attentive, you're able to find out new research ideas that you are going to look into. And research will always start with you. Maybe they say having a topic that you want to inquire into, and sometimes this topic, this research ideas doesn't just come out of the blue, right? It takes some kind of conscious effort and it requires your attention. For instance, now we are talking about yeah, since December of 2019 now. The what I've been talking about COVID-19. So different research work has been flying everywhere, but most people are not utilizing this opportunity. Now I've been privileged to work in a private research institute, and I get to see some kind of research funding that have been rolled out both by the United Nations concerning COVID-19, looking at different issues, both societal wise, both experimental wise, and the rest of them. But very few people were able to utilize this opportunity, were attentive enough to see, okay, what are those critical issues that I need to look into? regardless of your field, some people were like, okay, impact of COVID-19 on the livelihood of people, impact of the lockdown on the livelihood of people. So these were different opportunities for people to really come up with tangible research work. But because of the fact that most people are not attentive about the times, they are not attentive as to the issues on ground. That is why most people could not come up with research works. And like I said, the starting point is with you coming up with research ideas, and these things don't just come out of the blue. You need to be attentive towards a particular area, attentive towards a particular societal issue that is ongoing, and then it can help you scale from there. So now there are other psychological factors which you can make up the checklist, but then going forward now we now also talk about resource constraints, right? We talk about resource constraints. Now, that aspect of resource constraints is a core issue, because first and foremost we talk about funding. Now, funding is an issue because in this part of the country, in this part of the world, research is not being funded the West here, whereby not just government but also private institutions get to pump in money for people to go undertake research, and that has been a problem. So these things, it's not cheap. It costs money, both in the aspect of you collecting your data. Sometimes even with all those people that do experimental based research, you need to go collect samples and the rest of them. So the thought of the fact that I'm going to why will I be spending this much money on this research, and at the end of the day I cannot be able to see any kind of returns. I cannot be able to see any direct returns. It has a way of affecting people's willingness to be able to undertake the research. So, or a lot of things with regards to funding. So it's an issue. So the next issue now that we have in the terms of resources now is in terms of materials, right? So in terms of the what information. Okay, so another particular resource constraint is time. Yes, time is a very important constraint that we cannot be able to overlook, because for most of us now we are busy people, we are working professionals, you're a doctor, you are this, you are that, and you're trying to combine all of this, and because of that you're not able to have the necessary time that you require in order to devote to the process. And it is one that research doesn't just happen overnight, no doubt. It doesn't just happen overnight, and that is why what I do emphasize now is not about speed. It's not just about being fast, but that you are consistent, right? So you will not always have all the time in the world. You certainly will not always have all the time in the world, but then you need to be consistent. You need to be consistent. So that time, no doubt, timing is a challenge. So even with regards to us in the academia, whereby you have this deadline to submit this, you have this deadline to submit that. So because of that timing, you are not able to undertake the research or those aspects of publishing to journals, writing research papers. These things take time, and because of that, it is a constraint. And then also, again, another constraint that we have is with regards to the paucity of data, right? With the paucity of data, because research, whatever question you want to answer, we have to come down to data, right? Because data is what contains the information that you want to analyze at the end of the day and come up with insights. So we are shocked if we don't have that kind of organized way, organized systems for data collection, right? We don't have that organized system for data collection. And then again, on the other hand, we also have materials with regards to sources, information sources to consult. Now, in abroad university, sometimes when you just register, you have your university itself has subscribed to several journals for you. So the major challenge for you, the major task for you is to be able to sit down and read, to be able to sit down and study to get this material. But it's not like that for us here. So the time you take to source for information that you require in order to undertake that particular research that you are looking for, these things has a way of discouraging. It has a way of discouraging people from engaging in research know that that is a problem. That is a very, very big problem. So there are other resource constraints, and let's say people with the requisite skills, right? People with the requisite skills that you can work with is also a resource constraint. And then the other aspect, the other constraint that I would like to mention now is the aspect of what's technical. So with regards to the skills that is required in order to be able to undertake this research. So the technical skills is very, very important. And this is where I would like to what, dwell much on now. Because now, with regards to the technical skills now, it takes a lot of things. Being able to design the right appropriate research methodology, being able to design the appropriate research methodology that fits into the study that you are looking at. Some people are clueless, most people are clueless as to how this research methodology is going to be, and that has been a constraint. That has been a big challenge because your research methodology has a way of organizing everything that you are going to be doing in your research. And then again, the aspect of research writing. So writing formal research work is not like when you are writing a novel. It's not like when there is a language, that is the way it is being written. Okay, you are doing citations, you are giving references. Most people don't really know how to do these things, and that has been a challenge. So and that has been a challenge because when you are publishing to journals, when you are publishing to reputable journals, it is expected that these research details, these skills are upheld to its utmost standard. So your methodology is appropriate for the topic, and then the way you organize your research work is very much appropriate. So that has been a challenge. It has limited so many people. I remember the first research I embarked on. I was very clueless, even how to go about doing literature review or how to go about doing conceptual reviews, empirical reviews, all those things that they do talk about in research. It was a very, very big and challenge. And then there is the aspect of what, managing your references, managing your citations, managing your references, managing your citations. So these have been a challenge for most people, and that is why they don't embark on research. And then the other aspect, which is the devil most people fear, it is the aspect of your data analysis, especially when you are doing quantitative analysis. Because truth be told, the average, especially for those of us coming from the social sciences, the average person don't like maths. They don't do what they don't like maths. So first and foremost, how to go about data collection is usually a problem. How to go about collecting your data and then analyzing that particular data with statistical techniques is usually a problem. And most times, because you don't know how to do it, you have to now go and you have to go to you have to go in search of a statistician or a data analyst that will help you analyze your research work. So most people, they come to us in Kenneth AD to help them and analyze their work. But certainly it's not going to be free of charge. You have to pay a token, right? And then we are talking about funding as a research constraint. So most people, they look at all of these things and they be like, it's not worth it. But that is why we are here for you. That is why Kenneth is here for you. Now, before the end of this webinar, we are going to show you some kind of guidelines that we are not going to need a statistician for anything. So what we are going to do for you in this webinar is almost like saying that we want to do something for you that will make you not to need Kenneth Ego at all or any statistician at all to help you analyze the data. Because we believe that once you have understanding of this research, how research is being done, the technical skills, the chances of you getting much involved in research work increases, right? It increases. So now going forward, now since we've been able to itemize what the problem is, so the psychological factors, the resource factors, and then the technical factors. So now how can you be able to improve on this thing? So generally now your research. Now let's go dive in properly to talking about, okay, how can you be able to improve the research output. So generally I see the whole research process as falling into three categories. So the first aspect, we have the searching. The second aspect, we have the reading, and then the third aspect, we now have the what, organizing. And most people, if you are not able to manage these three different stages, it increases the lead time, it increases the stress of of what engaging on what research. So the first aspect now is on searching. So what in searching now, you are searching for a topic, you are searching for a research idea, you're searching for materials to support that particular idea. Certainly, it will always start with the topic you have in mind. It will always start with the issues that you want to what, look into. And now, in that searching aspect, now it is not something that will happen overnight. It is a cumulative effort. Cumulative effort in terms of what are those things that you're exposing your mind to. So if you want to be successful as a researcher, if you want to be giving out research output on a day-to-day basis, on not on a day-to-day basis is an exaggeration though, but on a frequent basis, then you have to sharpen the mind. You have to sharpen the mind because ideas doesn't just come out of the blue. Sometimes they are just a repository of the things that you've exposed your mind to before, stored in the subconscious, and then somehow something just triggers it and it becomes a research idea, and then you want to inquire into it. So the aspect of searching has to be a continuous process. So if you will be successful as a researcher, you need to sustain that inquisitiveness, right? You need to sustain that inquisitiveness. Most of us now, we want to be successful in research, but I'm going to ask you, how many research journals, how many research communities that relate to your field that you are part of? So how do you expect to grow? So most of us, you just read your textbook. After reading the textbook, you just go. But what are those information that you do expose your mind to, and how attentive are you to the societal issues? So COVID-19 have been flying everywhere. What are those critical questions you've asked yourself about COVID-19? So that is the place in the process of asking those things, you get exposed to research ideas, right? You get exposed to research ideas. Then before the sourcing of what materials, more like a review of related literature, right? So yes, we know that we don't have that access that we need to journals, like subscribe to journals, but then I'll show you how you can be able to overcome some of those challenges. What are some of those platforms that you can be able to go to for your search? But the emphasis here is that it has to be on a day-to-day basis. My brother, my sister, it has to be on a day-to-day basis. You don't need to just leave it until you are working on a PhD work, or you are working on anything. You just have to maintain the sustain that consciousness of a researcher on a day-to-day basis. And then there is that aspect of reading, right? The aspect of reading. So you source for these different materials. You don't just source for these materials for sourcing sake. Then you have to sit down and read them. Discover what other people are saying. That is where you get to discover gaps, right? Because it doesn't add. The goal of research is that it should be able to add to the existing body of knowledge. But if all you are just doing is just to recycle what other people have done, then it's not of value, and you are not going to be distinguishing yourself as a thought leader in your field. So you have to sit down and read these materials, and then in that process you get to discover gaps, and those gaps doesn't necessarily need to be something big. It doesn't necessarily need to be something big. You just have to it might just be a little gap whereby most people have not looked into, and then that becomes the place that you are going to look into, and it becomes a research work for you, right? And then once you're done reading down, the other aspect of the challenge now is now how to be able to organize this material. So how to be able to organize this material. So from your background of study to your scope of discussion of the problem, to setting objectives, to research questions, and the rest of them, doing your literature review, you're referencing your data analysis, and then interpretation of the findings. So these are the things that come to play in the organizing aspect. Now, which you need to keep abreast to on recent trends on how best you can be able to organize your research work, right? So you need to master these three aspects. You need to master search, you need to master reading, and you need to master organizing your work, knowing the appropriate research methodology for that particular inquiry you are going into, and knowing the kind of data analysis that you need to perform in that particular regard. So these are the different little processes that come up in what research that you need to keep abreast, you need to master in order to be able to do what increase your research output. Right. So good. Now, having said laid that particular foundation, now let us move on to the last part that I'm going to be talking about for this webinar. Now, we have looked into the problem. We've looked into the process that needs to go on in research. So now let us look into how you can be able to increase your research output. Number one thing there is that you need to be intentional about research. You need to be very, very intentional about research. You know, one problem that we identified initially was psychological problems. The psychological problem of not paying attention enough, and then this inertia that comes by saying that at the end of the day, my research work, what is going to be done about it, right? There is no direct financial rewards after investing resources. You cannot be able to see direct financial rewards. But I'll tell you now, it's a problem in our society that we are more like 5 minutes people, so nobody wants to practice delayed gratification. Yes, that having so much research output out there may not be able to translate into direct financial reward, but it exposes you to several opportunities. For instance, now, like I said, I've been working in a private research institute, and I know a country like Canada, especially for PhD level, they have a lot of opportunities for students that are research focused, and there you see them getting visas to come to Canada to study. In the private research institute that I work with, I have this professor, the director of the institute is a professor, and for about 3 years he was in Canada, scholarship, on a fellowship scholarship on PA for a research work. He was being, not just that he was on this fellowship scholarship, but he was being paid. He was being paid research funding. All he needed is that, which research work are you working on? Is it something valuable? We provide you all the resources, all the necessary facilities that you require. But if one have not built a track record already with regards to this research output, such opportunities you cannot be able to access it. So regardless of the fact that yes, you cannot be able to see, maybe as you do one research work like this, they'll give you 5,000 naira, 10,000 naira. Those things are very, very minimal. But then there are other opportunities that it exposes you to. Do you understand? So regardless of the fact that yes, most times in Nigeria we don't value research, that after doing some research, it's just staying there in one journal, probably for you to get promotion. For those that are into lecturing and the rest of them. But beyond all of those things, you need to be more intentional about research for your own personal development, for your career advancement, and also to be able to distinguish yourself as a thought leader. These things don't happen by sheer serendipity. You have to be intentional about it. And there's this something I know about. Once you are intentional about something, once you have your mind focused on a particular goal, it's as if the entire universe comes to a standstill just to ensure that that goal you have in mind becomes a reality. It's as if every other thing comes to a standstill, that suddenly you start seeing collaboration start coming. Once you focus your mind, okay, I want to do a research on this, and research ideas starts coming up. Because if you don't give your mind a focus, if you don't give your mind a focus, right? If you don't give your mind a focus, you are not going to allow your mind to work. Your mind will only work when you give it a task. So if you are focused that okay, that social period, because of my work schedule, I want to give myself a target that okay, I need to be producing two, three research work within social period. You have to be intentional about it. That's just the thing. You have to be intentional about it. So once you're intentional, that aspect of attention, you start overcoming that challenge of attention. So you are quickly able to identify societal trends that would be a possible point of research. I was so happy with one of our students that is currently in the August 22 batch of our research and data analysis masterclass, of the different works that he did in terms of this COVID-19 research and the rest of them. He did quite a lot. And though it was challenging getting data, but he still did his best, right? So good. That is that aspect of, I think once you're able to be intentional about undertaking research, you should be able to overcome that challenge of what psychological factors. Now, the aspect of what resources. Now, the one and only one, the number one advice I'm going to give in terms of what resources is that you need to leverage. Leveraging is the what answer. to challenging to overcoming that challenge of resources. So in resources, we identify the challenge of people. So we identify the challenge of funds. We identify the challenge of the paucity of data. We identify the challenge of resources, journals, and the rest of the materials to be able to conduct. Like I said, the main thing first to overcome that particular challenge, though it might not overcome it in its entirety, but it's going to help you be more productive. And that is the aspect of leveraging. And by leveraging, I mean that making use of other people's money, other people's resources, and other people's what? Time. Leveraging, because this the resource constraints we made mention, funds, right, time, right, and the rest of them. So leveraging is you making use of other people's money, other people's time, and other people's resources. That is the way you can be able, one way you can be able to overcome that particular challenge. For instance, now, yes, okay, you want to undertake a particular research that is going to involve some kind of funding to get that work done, and at the end of the day, also pay for what is going to be involved to publish in that particular journal. Now, there are other people that have that same interest, right? But they may not be able to have the time to put in the necessary work. But why you have the time, but you don't have the funds, right? So what you now need to do is to do what? Collaborate. You need to do what? Collaborate with people, and that is very, very important. Leveraging. Leveraging. Leveraging is going to drive you to do what? Collaborate with other researchers. Leveraging is going to drive you to do what? Collaborate with other researchers. But then again, knowing the people to collaborate with is also a challenge. Why? Because most of us we have not become part of communities of researchers. So as a researcher, you need to be involved in communities, research communities, and that is one thing we try to do in Kenexi, that after the whole training, we don't just tell our students, okay, go, we've collected your money, we deliver the training, so go. We add up everybody to a central community, Kennex Edu Global Alumni Community, for that collaboration to start happening. Because we have people that have the resources, the money to spend, but they don't have the time to engage in the research work. And yes, they can also be able to contribute their ideas towards that particular research, which helps the team to go forward. So you need to leverage on those kind of people. You're part of communities. As somebody pursuing a path in data science, I'm involved in several communities. And the beauty of the internet again is that you can have these communities virtual on WhatsApp, on Telegram, on Facebook, and in the process, and be an active member of that community, not just being in the community, being an active member of that community, that you are making valuable contributions, that you are giving valuable knowledge. You see why the whole research thing, it goes just beyond just publishing on journal, but what are you bringing on the table knowledge wise? So be part of communities. I'm talking about leveraging now. One way you can leverage, be part of communities, communities of like-minded researchers, community of different researchers. That way you can be able to find other people that have the same interest as you, and you can be able to collaborate with them. So you don't have the resources, the money, you can be able to collaborate with somebody that has the money and you put in the time. Right now, you have the resources, you don't have the time. You can be able to collaborate with somebody that can have that time to go to the field, collect data, meet with the different stakeholders, but you have to collaborate. You have to collaborate. I don't know what gives us this I alone mindset. Do you understand? You have to collaborate. So you go up to you become part of communities, and then you have some kind of ties with research-based firms, with research institutes. So research institutes like that can help you in the aspect of data collection, because some of them they have what trained data collectors, which is the next phase that we are going to be moving in Kennex now. That we are going to try to, we want to see how we are going to train young people to be expert data collectors, so that when we have these working professionals that are also very much interested in research, but they will not have that time, they can be able to engage these young people to go and collect the data from the right audience, and then the analysis is going to be done. So leveraging is just the answer that I have for us today concerning how you can be able to overcome that challenge of what resources. You need to leverage on other people's time, leverage on other people's money, leverage on other people's resources. If not, if you want to try to do it alone, you are going to wear yourself out and you are going to have very little done, right? You are going to have very little done, but with leveraging, you can be able to overcome that challenge of resources. And then again, the other aspect now that I think that can be able to help you with regards to the technical challenges, right? Technical challenges. That one is not something that will definitely happen overnight because the aspect of knowing research design, the aspect of knowing research methodologies is one that you need to expose yourself to information as to how it is being done. And being part of communities, again, like I said, is also going to help with that because you're able to find somebody that knows what you don't know, and the person is able to teach you. Remember, I started off by giving us a quote that what makes you learned, what makes you educated is not the fact that you have so many degrees, it's not the fact that you have so many qualifications, but your ability to sustain a humility that makes constant learning possible. So you have to maintain that aspect of constant learning. You are learning from what other people, right? So, but then again, the technology, being abreast with technology can help you to overcome some of these technical challenges that we are talking about. So I'll give you an instance now. Okay, with regards to one of the technicalities of research writing is still those aspects of citations, managing references, right? And that thing can be very, very stressful. Not everybody knows how to do it. So there are softwares. There are softwares that helps you to do what manage your references quick and easy. Softwares like Mendeley, it helps you to be able to manage your referencing, but most people don't know how to do it. I get sad when I see people still try to do the whole referencing thing manually. Even your Microsoft Word set can help you to manage your references. But the thing with Microsoft Word is that reference methods of referencing is something that is being updated on a constant basis by the different referencing institutions, whether you're talking about AP, APA, American Psychological Association, for those people in the social sciences, right? Or you're talking about MLA, you're talking about Chicago and the rest of them. It keeps on updating, but most people, our Microsoft Word is either 2013 or 2007. So it makes use of the referencing as back then. Do you understand? But Mendeley is a software that can be able to give you the up-to-date citations. So you need to leverage on softwares like this. Do you understand? So it helps you cut down on that time that you are going to need to manually do what? Set your research. You are going to use to manually reference your work and manage all those citations. So look out for software tools like Mendeley and learn how to be able to use it, which we can be able to help with that, right? In our advanced, in some of our research and data analysis class, especially in the advanced class, we taught on how you can be able to use Mendeley. And then again, another aspect that takes time, right? Another All right. So sorry. I'm so sorry. We had some kind of network issues. You know, Nigeria now, our data connection and everything. I apologize for that. So, but then um so now going forward, now I was talking about some of the way you can be able to leverage your technology in order to be able to overcome some of those challenges. So I made mention of making use of mentally. I made for your reference management. I made mention of making use of Grammarly for your proofreading and everything. So then again, now again, sometimes writing can be very challenging, right? Sometimes we might be having issues with writing, but then you could actually talk, you could actually do a voice, right? You could actually do a voice. So you can be able to do a voice. Now that particular voice now with software like Google Docs, Google Docs helps you to be able to move from speech to text. Right, that is good. Now the other aspect, the other technical aspect that we're having now is with regards to the data analysis. To be able to do, most people they don't know how to do data analysis, so they have to go and consult a statistician or anybody. They have to consult a statistician or somebody that knows how to use some of these software packages to be able to know how to use them. So there are some software packages that you need to know, SPSS and the rest of them, Stata is there. But not just knowing this, how to use the software packages is not the only challenge, but knowing at what point, okay, which of these statistical tools that I need to use in order to be able to analyze what I want to do. Right, it is a challenge, and most of us we have not even taught properly because we don't have a statistics background, and that is why we have gone very very far. Now we have gone far. Now I've been able to write a book on this, and that is, please show me this slide. I've been able to write an ebook on this, and the ebook, the title, go to the next slide. Okay, so this is the ebook. Now it says when to use what statistical what analysis. So in this ebook now you are going to find out, you are going to be able to know how to arrive at the appropriate statistical tools to use. Like I said, it's not just knowing how to use the software packages, but knowing at what point in time you need to make use of social statistical tool, right? So there are so many statistical tools out there which will be able to exhaust as many of them as possible in this evening. We've been able to exhaust as many of them as possible in the ebook. We have more than 30 of them in this particular ebook that shows you step by step as to when to use this particular statistical tool, what kind of objective that you're going to have, what is it that you're going to be working on to use this particular statistical tool. So it is a step by step guide. Having this ebook, you will not need the help of any statistician at all. And also in the ebook now, you also find where to be able to find the statistical tool in a software like SPSS. So the ebook is going to help you to know which statistical test to use. We are working on a research work. It's going to help you arrive at what is the appropriate statistical tool to use, and then how you can be able to use them. You understand? How can you can be able to use them, and then also show you where you can be able to find it in what SPSS. So that is the advantage of this video. So it's a personal guide, it's a personal Bible for you with everything that has to do with what statistical analysis. Like I said, once you have this particular ebook, you will not need a statistician at all, right? Because you can be able to know what statistical test you need to do. So now for this particular ebook, ideally what we want to do, what the price is going to go for is 3,000 naira. But because of the fact that it is going out to our community members, it is going out to our community members because this book now we are going to put it on what Amazon, and in Amazon now it's going to be for $9.99. Right, it's going to be for $9.99. But for all our community members, for all our students, we are going to give it for as low as 2,000 naira. Right, for people that are going to be able to pay within the next 7 days. So as out of the next 7 days, beyond the next 7 days, it's just going to be on the normal price that is going to be on Amazon for 9.99. So it's one that you need to get, and for a lifetime you just be doing your research work, and you are not going to have issues at all. So the other aspect now with regards to overcoming the technical challenges now is the aspect of your data collection. Now most of us, the data collection, we are either going to review the administer questionnaire and the rest of them. It can be very challenging because we don't know how to use some kind of tools like Google Forms or Google Survey Monkey. So these are tools that can help you very, very quick. Do you understand? So um using tools like survey for Google Forms, and Google Forms is actually free. Is actually free of charge. Now using things like Google Forms, then Survey Monkey. Yeah, Survey Monkey, you can be able to. There are some kind of features that you need that you have to pay. Do you understand? But these things are very important. It helps you to cut down on the research life cycle. So from the comfort of your home, you can be able to design a questionnaire. And even some of these tools, they already have pre-made templates that you can just go for. So you want to do a market research on SurveyMonkey, you can be able to find already templates there that you can just pull out and then push out to your people. So that is where, but most of the time we do have a challenge of people filling out those questionnaires, right? That is because you are not part of communities and you are not contributing to those communities. So if you are part of a community and you are contributing valuably to those communities, once you post your questionnaire, the chances of people responding to them is going to be higher. And then don't just expect to just post it once and people will do it. No, you need to follow up, send it privately to their DM, call them and then, okay, you want to do this particular research, please help me and fill out this questionnaire. And you're going to have no responses. And the advantage of using these online questionnaires is that once you do them, a tool like Google Form automatically puts them for you in a spreadsheet. So you don't need to undertake that process of data entry again into the, like moving it from the questionnaire it is and moving it into an electronic form. All you just need to do now is to export it to SPSS, and then with our ebook guide, you can be able to know which kind of statistical analysis that you need to perform on that particular uh, data that you've collected and analyze it appropriately. So my people, that is it. So these are the few tips that you can be able to implement in order to improve on your research output. And there are other tips that we are going to continue to share with you people on the groups on WhatsApp, and then when you follow us on our different social media pages. So please follow us on our different social media pages on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, because we do post valuable content that are data analysis related and then research related. And then again, another way you can be able to improve on what you do is to register for some of our research and our data analysis courses. We do have a basic course on research and data analysis that we run every month, and then an advanced class as well, whereby we take you to the very, very foundations of, okay, those challenging aspects of research designs, research methodology, and then data analysis. We get to cover all of them. And then with our ebook guide, when and what the ebook guide, you can be able to know which of these statistical tools you need to use. So when to use what statistical analysis. This is a must-have ebook for anybody serious about research. It's going to help you overcome those data analysis challenges. So good. Now we're going to wrap it up at this point. I wish I could have been able to take some questions, but then just send your questions to the different forums, and just send your questions to the different platforms on our Telegram, on our Facebook page, on our WhatsApp platform. Then I'm going to attend to the questions there. And also, you can also reach me on the office line or my own personal line 0706730540. I'll be able to attend to all of your questions. So thank you very much for coming out for this. I call it Midnight School. Yeah, it's a webinar, a midnight school, and we are going to continue to bring them your way often and on, so that you can be able to update knowledge. And then again, lastly, I would like to get your feedback as to the production of this webinar, whether you had a seamless experience. I know we had a break in network at some point, but then was the voice clear? Was the video clear enough? You understand? Please, we would like to get those feedback. So thank you very much for coming, and please just type in the comments "thank you" so that I know those of you that are around. So thank you very much, and we really appreciate it. And I think is the music available? Okay, good. I wanted to play for us some music by one of our students. Her name is Imara Joyce. A very wonderful and awesome music. But then our technical person couldn't be able to put up the music. But then again, I also like to tell you that this YouTube live coverage was handled by the Go Live Multimedia. It was handled by the what Go Live Multimedia. So they are very much good in everything live streaming. So you're looking at having something like this for your own self, for your own brand, then reach out to me and I'm going to connect you to the Go Live Multimedia. They are very, very awesome. So I'd like to get your feedback on the production and how it went so that we know where to improve. Right. So my name is Miracle Najee. I still remain Miracle Najee, Managing Director of Kenex TV. And thank you very much. Thank you so, so much for coming out for this webinar. We're expecting your call for the ebook. We're expecting your call to get your questions. So thank you very much and you have a wonderful night ahead. Bye then. We don't have music. I'm still like